So everyone is asking themselves the same exact question right now. When is the bottom going to be here in Bitcoin? When do I redeploy my capital? When will we finally take off again? And so that's what 90% of people are asking themselves right now. And so ask yourself and answer it truthfully. Are you the same, as everyone else asking that same question? Or do you want to be the 10% of people who are just so ahead of the game and so much better than everyone else? So the key is to ask the right questions. All right, don't be 90% of people asking when is the bottom. Okay, be the 10% of people which are asking not when to go long Bitcoin, but when do they short Bitcoin. All right, that's the question you want to ask yourself if you want to be better and ahead of everyone else. Because the truth is, if you know how to short Bitcoin, you also know how to go long Bitcoin. Why? Well, because think about it. If you short Bitcoin, at some point you got to close your short. And how do you know to close your short? Because you know that Bitcoin's likely not going to go much lower, and so that's why you want to take your profit. So when you book your profit on the short, you can then go long. That's why shorting is such an important skill set that many people don't have. If you know how to short, you know how to go long. And so at this point, like I said, people are getting excited and they think that this is the bottom here, right? We touched 33K, we came out of there, and people think, oh, we got a couple three green candles, right? People are acting like these daily green candles are winning an NBA championship, right? Going three-peat back to back to back, but this is a daily candle, not a yearly candle, right? And that's where people let their emotions take control of them and totally blind them from the objective analysis and what we see here. So it's a clear downtrend, 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 tap, 4 tap. Should we get over here to the 5th tap of this resistance, we're likely to resist it again and fall back lower. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, right? They get so bullish just off of a few green candles that they don't realize it's still a downtrend. You have every characteristic of a bear market still. And the truth is, if you want to identify a trend reversal, you need to study trend reversals. So for example, here was a downtrend. Here was Bitcoin getting smashed. All right, and then here we set a bottom. So let's study this trend reversal, okay, because this was a trend reversal, right? We go from 29K, that was the bottom. The trend was reversed. Okay, so what do you notice when you study this trend reversal? One is Bitcoin soars out of the bottom. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green candles back to back to back to back with a tiny little red candle followed by a big surge in green candle. So pretty much almost 9 straight days of bullish price action, and you see this instant 43% move to the upside within a week. All right, let's notice the next time we set a trend reversal was right here. All right, look at this. You get 1, 2, 3, tiny little red candle, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight green candles, and you get right here, a 35% move in 1 week. Okay, that is a bottom. Okay, when you surge out of there with strong volume to support it, with a green, consecutive green candles coming out of the bottom, that's a sign of a bottom, right? So what are we doing? If we want to identify the bottom, we want to study previous bottoms to know what it looks like, right? You can't know what a bottom looks like if you don't know what it looks like. And that's what a bottom looks like, my friends, right there. 29K and 42K. Does this look like a bottom? Does this look like what we saw last time? Well, clearly not, okay? Because we see all these weaky-deaky, tiny little candles which are not even close to being of the magnitude of these previous bottoms you've seen, right? These are big, massive, surging green candles. Okay, these are tiny little weaky-deaky candles that are uncertain, right? They're not sure. See the energy in these candles? They're tiny. It doesn't know what it wants to do, and that's not a sign of a bottom. You see these candles? These are big, strong, fucking alpha candles that know exactly what the fuck they want to do. That's a bottom. This is not a bottom, in my opinion, right? Nine times out of 10, this price action you see is not going to lead to a bottom. At least that's what I think, all right? So that's why I think that, hey, this tiny little uncertainty, see this little weak energy, tiny little green candles that are not very decisive and are not very strong, to me that indicates that, hey, the downtrend is very likely to continue. I could be wrong, but 8 to 9 times out of 10, I think I'm going to be right on what I'm saying here. So, all right. We see volume is also decreasing on the way up, right? So we continue to bounce through, we continue to move higher, but look at the volume decreasing just completely out of this bottom, right? Look at that. First, there was a decent bit of interest, but what you got to understand is, for example, you pump and then you dump. Well, same thing is true when you dump, okay, then you're always going to get that counter move to the upside. So here you had your biggest sell volume. Okay, and of course your biggest sell volume is going to be followed by your biggest buy volume because they counteract each other, just like a pump and dump, right? So look right here, big buy volume, but then boom, easily counteracted when we set the top by your biggest sell volume. You see that? Here, though, you have your biggest sell volume, and the buy volume does not counteract that sell volume to a greater extent, right? So this was a sign of a top when the sell volume exceeded the buy volume by double, pretty much. Here, the buy volume does increase, but it does not even come close to exceeding the sell volume. And that's why I think that, hey, this is not bullish volume. This is not supporting volume of a stance of a trend reversal. So to me, you have every sign that the trend reversal is not likely yet, and that's exactly why I think we will likely continue lower. All right, so now that we've got that out of the way, remember what I talked about in the beginning of the video. Everyone's asking, when do I long Bitcoin? When do I redeploy? And when is the bottom set? That's not the question you want to ask if you want to be better and ahead of everyone. The question you should be asking right now is, when the fuck do I short Bitcoin? Because that's a high probability trade. That's a high probability setup that's actually going to make you money. Because, for example, okay, that guy said to buy the dip here. He said to buy the dip here. He said to buy the dip here. Here. That's not a high probability trade. You lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dip buys in a row doing that. Okay, whereas if you do what I'm kind of advising, right, with the mindset that I have as a trader, is do what has the high probability of winning. So buying the dip here was not a high probability of winning. Shorting the tops, shorting the bounces has a very high probability of winning, right? You won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now possibly 6 times in a row if you stick to this strategy instead of buying the dips, right? So it's okay to lose the 6th time. It's okay to be wrong on the 6th time, because most of the times that wins you, right? And once you can objectively realize that and not get down on yourself for losing the 6th time or losing that 6th setup, it's okay, right? That's when you can really trade effectively and emotionlessly. So that's exactly why I think we're heading lower. Now, I want to give you a couple scenarios I see playing out. I want to draw the future and show you what I think this could exactly look like. So obviously, you guys know we have this head and shoulders right here, which is what gives us a price target down to 26K to 16K. If you don't know how that happens, I'm going to show you right now, right? So highly bearish head and shoulders. If you take the price target measurement from the top right here on a logarithmic time scale, you're going to get a price target down to 26K. Should you measure this on a non-logarithmic linear time scale, you're going to get yourself a price target down to 16, 17K. Okay, so both of these price targets are very real, very possible. And people think that 17K is just totally ridiculous, that it'll never happen. And the best way to screw yourself is to not be ready for it, because it absolutely can happen and it is a real possibility. But the most logical, most reasonable target here at this point is 26K. And this is where I think we will very likely head to. All right, now, like I said, there's a couple scenarios that could play out here. I am flexible and I adapt to the market because I care more about being right than being stubborn and being wrong, right? A lot of people will stick with their opinion even if it's wrong, and they'll just stick with it. And you look like an idiot and you lose a lot of money doing that, right? I'd rather change my stance to be right than do that. And so, for example, what I see happening are a few scenarios, right? So we're in this downtrend right now. We got the head and shoulders price targets of 26 and 16K. Right? So, all right, so what I see happening is 3 main scenarios. One is we're going to come to this 30K level and we're going to fucking smash it. All right, I've said this in now 3 videos that I think if we get to 30K, we will smash it, because every single person in the world thinks that 30K is going to hold again. I think it'll hold temporarily, but I think we're going to bounce at 30K and head lower. All right, so this is scenario number 1 I see. So let's just say that maybe that looks something like this. Okay, so 30K initially holds, right, because that's a great trading level, right, where a lot of people are going to be interested in setting a long, but it doesn't mean it's going to hold itself. So scenario number 1 is this one right here. Okay, we continue our way down to 30K, we bounce at 30K, and then break through and lower. Okay, scenario number 2 I see is we don't even get to 30K, right? Forget 30K. Let's say the market pulls out a trick out of its ass and just surprises us, and it doesn't even make it down to 30K. Let's say the bottom is set above 30K, because if everyone thinks, hey, we're going to get to 30K, maybe we don't even get there. So maybe we set the bottom at, for example, 32K. Okay, well, if this is going to be the case, what we need to see is we need to study the past and see what a bottom really looks like. So if coming out of 32K or something like this, it looks anything like what we've seen out of real bottoms, okay, that's when I'm going to switch my stance and say, you know what, I don't think we're going to break through 30K, because I think the bottom is set here, right? So you got to adapt to what the market is giving you. So if we get the signals of a bottom, if we get surging volume and this, the characteristics of a bottom above 30K, then I think it's very possible we set a bottom above 30K, break resistance, and break free out of this downtrend. So this is scenario number 2 I see, is we could set the bottom above 30K and break free past the green resistance trend line. Remember, I'm giving you scenarios. All of these are possible, but overall, I'm going to show you which one I think is the most likely. Okay, scenario number 2 is that, remember we were talking about how, hey, if you short it here, 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 you win, win, and maybe you short it here and you lost. So maybe let's say we get a 40K and boom, it breaks out right there. Okay, so that's scenario number 3. These are the 3 main scenarios I see happening. And I hope that makes sense, right? So which one do I think is most likely to happen? I think scenario number 1 is the most likely to happen. So we got scenario number 1, we got scenario number 2, and we got scenario number 3. I know that seems like I'm saying it can go up, down, or sideways, but really what I'm telling you is objectively any 3 of these can happen, but I think number 1 is going to happen, right? I think this is the most likely one to happen. So I think number 3 is the least likely to happen, where we just break above this downtrend. Why? Because look at the volume. It's decreasing. We don't see a ton of interest, and we don't see the signs of a bottom here. So 3 is very unlikely to play out. 2 could definitely play out. I'd say 2 has maybe like a 30% chance of happening. I think scenario number 1 has like a 60% chance of happening. All right? Maybe a 50% chance of happening. So that's just my opinion, that's my breakdown, and that is the scenarios I see coming out of this head and shoulders. So at the end of the day, guys, you don't get bullish until you can break above trend line of resistance right here. I don't know why everyone wants to get bullish so early, man. You're just screwing yourself over. Wait, be patient. Once you can clear this green trend line, okay, now you can actually consider getting bullish. Until you can break this green trend line, as a trader, right? You have no reason to be bullish. As an investor, sure, if you don't care, you just want a long-term hodl, hold, invest, then to you it doesn't really matter, right? But as a trader, it makes no sense to be bullish until you can break above that green trend line. All right, so guys, those are the 3 scenarios I see happening. That's exactly what my analysis is, and that's why I do not think this is a bottom. Now, I set a poll here on Twitter, guys, for you to go vote on. Has Bitcoin set a bottom already? Next video, I'll break that down and more. So that's obviously what I've done in this video. So if you guys want to go vote on this poll here on Twitter, you can follow me at CrashesClay69. Give your input, give your take. It seems like we're pretty even, 50-50 almost here. You guys now know my vision for the future. So let's take out scenario number 3 where we break out here, because I just think this is probably like a 10% probability of happening, where it just breaks out right here. Because once again, look at the volume, look at all the signs, and there's nothing good about this right now. Okay, so let's just remove scenario number 3, and maybe the 10% probability that scenario 3 plays out, like, I doubt it. All right, so let's just ignore it so you have more of a focus on what's really likely to happen. So I think easily we're heading for at least another move lower, right? At least another move lower right here. Now, if it gets to 30K, I think we'll bounce at 30K, okay, and break lower later. Now, maybe we break lower like 3 days after bouncing at 30K, or maybe we break lower like a month or 2 later after 30K. So it's either all right, we bounce at 30K and we're gonna break lower at some point here eventually. This is what I think is the most likely scenario. Okay, but the next scenario is, remember, if everyone thinks we're gonna get to 30K, then we may not even get to 30K, right? And so we could set a bottom, like I said before, the market could pull a trick out of its ass and just set that bottom before ever getting to 30K. So that's where I see us potentially setting a bottom before 30K and being fine like that. All right. So those are the 2 scenarios I see, guys, where you're going to get to 30K, bounce, break through it later, or we're not even going to get there and we're going to set that bottom before. But in both of these scenarios, I do think we have at least a leg lower coming, guys. So remember, the question at the beginning of the video, everyone's asking, when do you buy the dip? When do you long Bitcoin? You got to reframe that question if you want to be better than everyone. If you want to be smarter and ahead of the game, you got to be asking yourself, when do you short it? The answer to that question is right here near resistance, is when you're going to have the highest probability of your short making you money, reversing to the downside, and putting you into one of these 2 scenarios, scenario number 1 or scenario number 2. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Drop a like if you did. Make sure you subscribe. Really appreciate everyone. And I hope you enjoy this, guys. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care.